Remember that it stopped when the umbrella was blown away. And it started again as the blue umbrella saw the red umbrella, but immediately stopped, of course, when they got blown off course. And then started again when they were together at the end. So just that use of sound to bring you through the piece and to indicate where your attention should be and help you understand a little bit about the story is things that I would focus on with the students. So also bringing you a little bit through the sample lesson representing, because representing for me is possibly the scariest skill to represent, because it incorporates a wide variety of art forms. And while I'm fairly comfortable with movement, an art form that I'm not comfortable with is drawing. And so I was looking at how do we as teachers learn these art forms to be able to teach them. What resources are available for us to bring to our students so that if perhaps this is something, a harder skill that I'm not going to be confident at quite yet, there's still resources out there that I can bring to my students so that we can engage in this without me having to be the expert. And the third piece is looking at how can I look at the people in my room, identify what skills they bring to the classroom, and help them be the experts and teach the others how to use those skills when we're working on representative products. So the very important thing that I learned while looking at representing is the importance of scaffolding. Because if I ask you to simply stand up and create a skit or a drama, the process on your students' faces are going to be like, oh, okay. But if you ask your students to simply stand up, after you've done some pre-scaffolding of what they're going to do, and simply freeze. Everyone can freeze. And so by freezing, and if you've got 5 people frozen in a pose here, you suddenly have a story. You're suddenly wondering, what is this lady doing? What is she thinking? What is she feeling? What happened right before that to get her to this stage? And you've got the person on the floor with her head down and curled around herself. And she might not be indicating an actual person in this scene, but maybe just a feeling. The first time that I was exposed to this was in high school, but the second time that I was exposed to creating tableaus to tell stories with your students was in a workshop led by a woman who is in a wheelchair. So while this looks like something that you have to be very active and able-bodied to do, it can be broken down to accommodate for a lot of different types of people in the room. So I've got them frozen, right? First step, tell a story, but all you have to do is stand still. And then I'm going to scaffold a little bit and give them another chunk of something that they are very capable of doing. Make a sound. What sound did you hear during this scene? So the students now maybe are just making one sound, and maybe they're just now going to add a motion, just a repetitive motion. So if perhaps we're in this scene, yeah, she's got a foot forward and she's like this, the motion just might be this. And so now you've got even more of a story. So you're asking the students then to add words, and then as you're building this up, the students have been telling the story to each other and talking about what was happening in this scene. So they're using a lot of vocabulary around it. You can then ask the students to narrate the story. So after they've gotten the beginning, middle, and end scene, perhaps emotion, perhaps sound, perhaps a word or two that they're saying over and over again, then you ask them to narrate because they've had an hour or so of talking about what they're doing and the story that they're telling, that they already have the narrative in place, and then they can simply just add it to that piece. So the process, instead of being like, go create a skit, they've got a more well-formed and thought-out piece. They feel more successful because they have been successful at not just one thing, but maybe 5 or 6 steps along the way. And you're able to ask them to stop and think about, why did you choose that motion? Why did you choose that word? And that helps them think through and think, okay, what element of design am I using? Am I looking at the levels? Are we high in this position? Are we low? Are we in the middle? Is it the same throughout? Do we change levels? So asking them to look at those skills is really important. So before I do a wrap, I'd like to do a shout out to a couple of people in this room. This would not have been created without some pieces and part of their either presentations or papers or lesson plans that they wrote this year. So there's work from Meg and Xavier, a lot of the pieces from Elizabeth, of course. Scott's got something in there as well as Raya. And a second shout out to Raya because we are all math students in this room working on our Sandandonas, and we all understand how big of a process this has been. And I handed her, I think it was maybe 50 to 60 pages at that time, and said, "Can you edit this?" while she's trying to do it, and she very graciously read through about 20,000 words to edit for me. And so to wrap before Raya sends me the 0 sign, where to go from here? I hope that as teachers we are taking this and we are considering not just teaching the 4 skills, but teaching the 6 skills to our students. Because no matter where you are, whether you're on a small island in the middle of nowhere or here in America where you have access to almost everything, your students are viewing and representing every day. And by not teaching them these skills, you're disservicing them, because then they're not as aware, not able to communicate in the ways that they may want to communicate. And I hope that the professors at SIT who are sitting in this room will consider adding 2 new skills to teaching the 4 skills. And I understand that it's already a packed course, and I did some flipping of the classroom to take a really critical piece that I think is who am I as a skill user and who am I as a teacher of that skill user, and put it into an online piece so that just like for those of us who were in Steve's law class, we did reader response journals. So putting that piece of answering those questions, exploring a little bit about who am I and who am I as a teacher onto the online piece so that we can move that from the classroom to have a little bit more space in exploring the 4 skills. So I hope that this makes it into your curriculum for future years.